In this video, we'll be looking at this 2-in-1 automatic card shuffler and dealer from Yorenson. This is just the box that it comes in. And this is just everything that comes inside the box. So we do have 4 remotes here, the dealer itself, a user manual, and a USB-C charging cable. These remotes here are kind of interesting because each player holds one, up to 4 players of course, and you kind of just have this in front of you, you push this button, then the unit will actually rotate towards you and give you a single card, which is pretty cool. So it can be customized the number of cards of course, but it's by default 1. So it's cool if you're playing a game where you draw a card because you just push this little puck in front of you, the unit will rotate towards you and then give you a single card rather than having to actually go and pick one up. So that's a pretty cool feature that I haven't seen in other dealers before. So looking at the unit itself here, you can see we have a bunch of different buttons. The front here is actually a screen, which I'll show you in a second, but the different buttons here are essentially just for programming it, kind of customizing the settings, adjusting the number of players, the cards to deal and all that. But this top button here is for shuffling, this button here is for initiating the deal, and this button here is initiating the deal in kind of a random way. Then you use these buttons here for sort of customizing all the different settings. And then we have these arrows on the top here, which will essentially set a player to start dealing from. So a bunch of different buttons here. It is very interesting how you can really fine tune exactly how random it is. You can choose kind of which player to start with, how many cards they should get, which order should deal and all that. So that's pretty interesting. But at a very basic level, you can also of course just adjust the number of players and the number of cards that they get. So looking at the rest of the unit here, you can see we have these kind of wings on the side here. This is where your actual deck of cards would go. You can either put a deck each or split a deck in half and then kind of have them on here. These wheels here will split them into this bottom compartment here to shuffle. We also have this back part that adjusts out, so if you're going to be using it with larger cards, like maybe some Uno cards, something like that, then you are able to accommodate that given this little extension here, which is pretty cool. Towards the back here we have this little hanging part, which essentially just allows the cards to not fly out the back as they're being shuffled, which is of course always good. We have the port for charging it, and then we have this sort of rubber piece on the bottom here, which essentially kind of grips it to the table here, adds some friction for it to be able to rotate without kind of slipping around on the table, so that's always nice to have as well. The only other thing is the front here where the cards actually get spit out, but I'll show you more on that later. But we'll go ahead and turn off the lights here and show you what this screen looks like. So to power on the unit, it's as simple as pushing the power button, of course, and then you go ahead and see the OLED screen here. There's a battery level indicator. It's on the custom setting by default, so we just have the number of players, the number of cards per player, and then how many extra cards you want it to deal. We can adjust all this pretty easily just by pushing this little next button here. So if you want to adjust the number of players, number of cards, and then the number of extra cards, but going from here we go into the settings. I won't take you too much through it, but we'll go ahead and look through it quickly. So you can, for example, make it deal automatically after shuffling, which I think is good to have on. You can adjust how random you want it to be, if you want it to be semi-random, completely random for the dealing order. If you want it to deal in a circle or do more of a pivot, which I'll show you later. And for the extra cards, if you want them to be put out during or after dealing, then we can deal in clockwise or counterclockwise. Dealing distance, and then that's all that. In terms of the limits we have here, the maximum number of players is 12. The maximum number of cards per person is 999, so essentially unlimited. And then the maximum number of extra cards is 99 as well. So being able to play with up to 12 players I think is super nice, especially if you're only dealing like 1 or 2 cards per player. It's pretty cool. It will rotate in a full circle and deal 12 separate hands, which is pretty awesome. So we can of course manually customize the number of players, cards per player, and extra cards, but if you want to use one of their set games, we can push this plus button here and then cycle through the different ones. So they have custom, which we were on. There's Uno, Rummy, Texas Hold'em, Bridge, Blackjack, and Crazy Eights. For each game you will still set the number of players, but for Uno for example it will deal 7 cards to each player and then 1 card to start playing off of. So that's different for each game, but essentially it has a bunch of preset games so you don't have to manually configure how many cards each player gets, how many extra cards and all that. So very nice to have those built in. And once you have one set, it will default to that each time. So if you're always playing Uno with 5 players, for example, you can have that just kind of set in here and it will automatically deal 5 players, 7 cards, 1 extra card each time you're playing, even if you power it off and all that. So it does have a pretty good memory function and you won't be having to customize all the settings each time you want to play. To show you how it works in a real scenario, we have a setup for 4 players here. As you can see, we have the machine in the middle. The player number is set to 4 players currently, but we can go ahead and adjust that if we want to, but we'll keep it at 4. We can push this button again to have it set the number of cards for each player. Right now it's set to 7. We'll go ahead and make it 8 just for fun. And then the number of extra cards is here as well. But we can go ahead and push the home button to kind of bring it to normal. And then we can go ahead and push this shuffle button. The shuffle button normally just shuffles the cards, but we have it on the setting where it will deal automatically after shuffling. So we go ahead and push the shuffle button, it will shuffle and then deal after that. These were the remotes I was showing you earlier. As I said, it comes with 4 of them, so if any of the players push that remote, it will deal a single card to them. You can of course adjust that to be a higher number, but for example, we can push this person's here, turns to them, deals them a single card. If we go over here, same thing. So that's a pretty cool alternative to just kind of drawing one card, especially good for Uno or something like that. Then you have those kind of remotes that will just deal a player a card depending on their positioning. So pretty cool to have that feature as well. If you don't want to deal with actually drawing cards, you can go ahead and just kind of push one of these buttons and it will deal them a single card, which is very cool. As I mentioned, it does have a bunch of built-in game settings as well, so we can go ahead and push this plus button here, and that will let us cycle through the different games. So we can play Uno, for example. We'll go ahead and select that one here. It's going to be 360, or do the back and forth, where it will essentially kind of pivot instead of doing the full 360. We'll go ahead and set that to on, just to show you what it's like. And again, since it's set to automatically deal after shuffling, we just go ahead and push the shuffle button. And it will start dealing automatically. This is in the kind of pivot way, again, not the 360 as it was before. So you're just going to see the difference there. And it will deal 7 cards automatically because it's set to the Uno game mode. And at the end, it dealt that single card over here, which is for the actual starting playing cards. So again, pretty cool to have all those built-in features if you don't want to have to configure it each time. It does have a mode to simply count cards as well. So if you have your cards up here, you can go ahead and push this button to shuffle them down into the machine. Then I will pause that so it doesn't start dealing, but then you go ahead and hold down this minus button, and it will just start counting the number of cards. So as you can see, it's spitting them out and counting the number of cards there as well. So if you want to make sure you have 52 cards in a deck or something like that, then that's a nice feature to have as well. We'll just go ahead and count through all the cards and then stop once it's finished. Looks like 54 there, but that's of course because of the jokers and all that. But very cool, very efficient, and a lot better than just counting all the cards manually. So overall, I would say this is a very cool product for anyone that likes playing cards. I've had shufflers in the past, but the fact that this actually deals as well is super cool, and the ability to count cards and do all that is very nice as well. I think it's great for both beginners and more advanced players because you can customize it a lot. It's almost too much, I would say, but it's pretty easy to just stick to the number of players and number of cards if you want to. But if you want to really get into the randomization and exactly customize who's going to get what card when and all that, then you're able to do that as well. So I would say it's definitely both good for beginners and more advanced players. There's definitely the settings to accommodate both. But overall, it saves a ton of time and ensures consistency when playing almost any card game.